Hello, welcome to Papa Nick's Music. I am, as always, your host, Papa Nick Lewis, and today we're going to wrap up the Album of the Year series. If you're a regular viewer, you know if this is if your first encounter with the Album of the Year series, here's the idea. What I'm doing is going through year by year, and I am giving you my Album of the Year for that year, along with some runners-up and some albums that I've got to mention. That's the actual column in my spreadsheet. Gotta mention. And the point here is not to identify which albums I think are the best albums of the year, although I think these are all very good albums. Nor is it the point to say that these are my favorite albums of the year, although they are among my favorites. Rather, the point is that I'm trying to establish a rough outline of my taste in music. What is the album that was released that year that I think is a particularly good insight into what I think of when I think of good music, right? Cool. So, without further ado, we started way back. Adieu? Did I just say adieu? Jesus Christ. Without further ado, first episode started in 1965 up to 1974. Today we are doing 2015 to 2024. Kind of more on that in a bit. Before we get into the albums of the year, though, got to do the subjectivity notice. I'm talking about relative quality, so anytime I talk about relative quality, I have to do the subjectivity notice. We firmly believe here at Papa Nick's Music that there's no such thing as objectively good or objectively bad art. There is only art that we like and art that we do not. We can talk about objective features that art has, but those objective features do not logically, automatically, intrinsically lead to quality, right? The aesthetic experience is inherently subjective, we firmly believe here at Papa Nick's Music. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying these are the best albums. I'm not making objective claims here. I'm just saying if you want to understand my taste, these are good albums to pay attention to. I'm not making objective claims, so I would appreciate it if in the comments you would refrain from doing so as well. Cool? Cool. Now we can start. Okay, so we're kicking off in 2015. 2015, actually a pretty good year for me. I've got 3 albums that I got to mention in addition to my runners-up. There are a couple of years we don't have that. My gotta mentions in 2015, Brian Wilson released No Peer Pressure, which is a pretty good album. Chris Isaak released his First Comes the Night album, which is a good album. ALO, the Animal Liberation Orchestra, released Tangle of Time, good album. But when it comes to album of the year, my third runner-up is David Gilmour's Rattle That Lock. I like that album. My second runner-up is Joe Jackson's Fast Forward. You know, if you've watched any of my videos, I'm a big Joe Jackson fan, and Fast Forward is a really good album. My first runner-up, Jeff Lynne's ELO with Alone in the Universe. I really like that album. But my album of the year, and I actually have vinyl for 3 of my albums in this episode. My album of the year is Bare Naked Ladies' Silver Ball. Silver Ball is, I would argue, the last great Bare Naked Ladies album. They've released a few since. Fake Nudes, which is Detour de Force. Okay, they're starting to come back. In Flight, okay, a little bit better than Detour de Force. So I'm hopeful if they release another album, it will be even better. That's the trajectory that they're on. But this album was fantastic. There, that's relatively glare-free. Strongly recommend Bare Naked Ladies' Silver Ball. My album of the year for 2015. For 2016, okay, 2015 was a pretty good year. 2016, not so much, at least as far as my library goes. I've got no albums that I got to mention, and frankly, I don't even have 3 runners-up. I've got 2 runners-up. My second runner-up is Je Dis Oui by Pink Martini, because I love me some Pink Martini. And my first runner-up is the first appearance of a band that you're going to hear a lot about today, and that is Young Gun Silver Fox with their first album, West End Coast, which I really, really like, and which, I mean, was like this far away from being album of the year. But when it comes to album of the year, I've got to give it to the Monkees. The Monkees released their Good Times album in 2016, um, produced by Adam Schlesinger, who is a personal hero of mine. Many of the songs that are on here are scavenged, well, some of the songs that are on here are scavenged reworkings of songs that they recorded back in the 60s. But many, if not most, I'm not going to bother to count them, are songs that were written for this project by contemporary songwriters. Andy Partridge, Ben Gibbard, right? We've got, Rivers Cuomo wrote one of them, right? So we've got modern songwriters, modern pop songwriters writing Monkees tunes for the Monkees to perform. And it's a fantastic album. It is worth being included when we're talking about the great Monkees albums. Albums of the 60s up until Changes. Changes, not a great album. And then from then on, Pool It, Justice. Okay, I like Justice, but most people don't. But this one is worth including with the heyday of the mid 60s. So strong album. Really like Good Times. 2017. Okay, shameless plug. 2017 is the year I released my first album. This is not available anywhere. If you want to listen to this thing, you got to come to me. Send me a direct message. Send me $5. I'll send you one. I got a stack of them, right? Shameless plug. What the hell? But for real, for 2017, I don't have any gotta mentions. I just have my 3 runners up. My 3rd runner up is the album Lindsey Buckingham, Christine McVie by Lindsey Buckingham and Christine McVie. I really liked this album when it came out. I'm glad that I got to go see them when they were touring to promote this album. They stopped here in San Antonio. It was a good concert. Really enjoyed it. Got to see Christine McVie perform before she passed, so I'm very happy about that. My 2nd runner-up is Randy Newman with his album Dark Matter, which is a very good album. My 1st runner-up, which was going to be my album of the year up until late last week, is the album Rekindled by the Greg Kihn Band, because Greg Kihn got together, he and his son and a guy that he was hanging around with. They got together, they wrote a bunch of songs, and then they just put together this album, and it sounds like the old Greg Kihn Band. So I really like it. I thought it was a really great album, and I had it firmly lodged as my album of the year. And then last week, I discovered something. When I was doing my video not last week, I'm pretty sure it was a couple weeks ago. Anyway, the last episode of Albums of the Year, my last album of the year in that episode, which was the album of the year of 2015, was Loudon Wainwright III's Haven't Got the Blues Yet. And I said, as I was talking about that this was likely to be Loudon Wainwright III's last appearance on my album of the year list. And boy, was I wrong. I saw him in concert. This would have been 2016, maybe early 2017, somewhere in there. And in that concert, he was starting to do dramatic recitations of things that his father, Loudon Wainwright Jr., had written. His father was a columnist, I believe, for Life magazine. I forgot to look that up before I started recording, so there's a crawl down here if it's something else, but I'm pretty sure it was Life magazine. And he was a famous columnist, and he wrote a weekly column. And Loudon Wainwright III, Loudon III from here on out, and Loudon II, his dad, didn't have the best of relationships. Loudon II didn't have the best of relationships with his father. So they've got generational issues of family dysfunction. And in this concert that I saw, Loudon III was bringing in bits and pieces of things that his father had written. You know, he'd play a few songs and then he would deliver one of these, and then he would play a few more and then he would deliver one. And he was working on what became his one-man show, Surviving Twin. Now, I knew that Surviving Twin had been done, it had been performed. I'm pretty sure he did it on Broadway. Note down here if I'm wrong on that. But he had great success with it. I knew that he had filmed it. What I didn't realize was that he had also released the music of it. And so Loudon Wainwright III, Surviving Twin, is glorious. It is the best Loudon Wainwright III album I have heard, and I'm a fan. He's shown up on the Album of the Year twice now, but this is his third appearance, and we're saving the best for last. I adore Surviving Twin. Strongly, strongly recommended. 2018. While we're talking about shameless plugs, 2018 was the year that I did my second album. This one, there's no glare. This one you can stream. It's available on all streaming services. You can check it out on Spotify and iTunes, Amazon Music, wherever you get your digital music, you can find this thing. Stream it. You know, pay me like a third of a half of a tenth of a penny. Or whatever the rate is. But apart from that, I don't have any albums that I got to mention. I don't even have three runners-up. My second runner-up for 2018 is Paul McCartney's Egypt Station. And if you watched my album ranking video where I ranked Paul's albums, you know that I'm not a huge fan of Egypt Station. The fact that it's my second runner-up, that's as we say in the biz, that is not a good sign. My first runner-up is the second album by Young Gun's Silver Fox, and that's an album called AM Waves, which I love and I very strongly recommend. And it would be my album of the year if it were not for the fact that in 2018, Paul Williams released Surf Music. Now, I'm having to do a pop-up on this because I don't have a physical copy of this. Paul Williams released it virtually. Paul Williams, not the one you're thinking of. I did a video, I don't know, sometime in the not too horribly distant past, where I gushed about this album, about how much I love this album. Strongly recommend you go back and watch that video. I even more strongly recommend that you just track down this thing. Paul Williams is a comedian and musician in New Zealand. He is most well known outside of New Zealand, I think, for being the Taskmaster's assistant on the New Zealand version of Taskmaster. I came across his music because the comedian James Acaster was using it as the incidental music for his Cold Lasagna Hate Myself 1999 tour special. And I really liked the music, and I tracked it down. And I have since bought the music. I don't have a physical copy of it, but I went to Bandcamp and I bought it. I don't remember what the actual price was. It's under $10 for the album. I paid him, I want to say $10 or $12 for both this album and his first album. I really like surf music. I'm going to go to my grave proselytizing for this because it is a fantastic album. So my album of the year, 2018, Paul Williams, Surf Music. 2019, nothing that I got to mention. I do have a full slate of runners-up, though. My third runner-up for 2019 is Alan Parsons' The Secret. I like Alan Parsons. I like the Alan Parsons Project, but I also really like his solo stuff, so I like Alan Parsons. My second runner-up is the follow-up to Jeff Lynne's ELO's first album. This time, Jeff Lynne's ELO has released From Out of Nowhere. Not quite as good as Across the Universe, but still a very good album. My first runner-up, I'm a nut for Joe Jackson, and this year he released Fool, and I think Fool is fantastic. And it would be my album of the year, hands down, if it weren't for the fact that this is also the year that Neil Innes released Nearly Really, the album that he recorded and released shortly before he passed away. part of my affection for this album comes from the fact that I know that he died shortly after he released this thing. Part of it comes from the fact that I just like Neil Innes. So, anything that Neil Innes does, he could record himself farting for a half an hour, and I would buy that and rave about it. But even taking all that into account, this is a really, really strong album. Big fan of Nearly Really. A lot of good stuff on here. Strongly recommended. Really like Neil Innes. We're going to talk more about Neil Innes next week, though, so I'm going to hold off till then. 2020. Okay, in 2020, I have no gotta mentions. We're just going to jump right in. My third runner-up for 2020 is Sergio Mendes with In the Key of Joy. Oh, I love me some Sergio Mendes. My second runner-up, Paul McCartney with McCartney 3. My first runner-up, Loudon Wainwright III with I'd Rather Lead a Band. Not as good as the stuff I've already talked about. My album of the year, though, oh man, is this thing a winner. I've mentioned them a couple of times, and now they finally made it to album of the year status. This is Young Gun Silver Fox. We don't have a picture of them on here. Let me look over here because I've got their earlier albums, and here we go. This is the album AN Waves. We've got Young Gun and Silver Fox. Because of the hair, right? Young Gun Silver Fox are Sean Lee, who is the Silver Fox, and Andy Platt, who is the Young Gun. And the music that they play is, it's very much in the vein of late 70s soft rock, yacht rock, AM Gold, that kind of stuff. Oh man, this stuff is really good. It's really fun music to listen to, and oh my God, do these guys... These guys know what they're doing. The music is well performed. It's very well recorded. I love Young Gun Silver Fox. And Canyons is a strong album. I've been holding up AM Waves for so long, I forgot which album I was talking about. Strongly recommend Young Gun Silver Fox. For 2021, I've got one gotta mention, and it's an unusual gotta mention in that I'm mentioning it even though I've not listened to it yet. I have bought a copy of it. One of my earlier Album of the Year videos, I raved about William Shatner's Has Been album. And one of my commenters, hi Tom, suggested that I pick up a copy of his album Bill, which I have done. You can see I've got it. But I haven't listened to it yet. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be, at the very least, a gotta mention. So it may bump one of these others that I've got as runners-up. But I wanted to at least mention it, and I wanted to thank you, Tom, for pointing it out, because I did not realize that it was out there. Completely unaware of Bill. So, albums that I am aware of, albums that I have listened to. My third runner-up is Alice Cooper with Detroit Stories. A pretty decent Alice Cooper album. I mean, Alice Cooper has been spotty for the last probably 20 years, but Detroit Stories, good album. My second runner-up is Lindsey Buckingham's self-titled Lindsey Buckingham. I love Lindsey Buckingham. My first runner-up is Mickey Dolenz with Dolenz Sings Nesmith. Mickey picked a bunch of Mike's songs. Mickey and I believe Christian Nesmith, Mike's son, arranged them, and then he recorded his versions of them, and it is just a gorgeous album. It's obvious that Mickey really loves and respects Mike as a songwriter, and his versions of these songs are very good. There are a couple that are, but overall, very good. It's a very strong album. But my album of the year, okay, now, you do not see this coming. Even though I've told you time and again how much of a fan I am of Kiss, you're not going to see me putting Paul Stanley's Soul Station's debut album Now and Then as my album of the year. But oh my, this is a good album. If your first thought when you hear about this, right? Paul Stanley's Soul Station, he's got, as you can see, he's got quite a few people with him here. And the idea is that they're going to do old soul songs, old Motown hits, stuff like that. And man, they do they do a good job with this. He's got a very talented group of musicians that he's working with here. When they got ready to start recording, Paul had written a few songs. I want to say there's 5 of the songs on here are Paul's originals, and they are among his better songs. I would say the quality of his songwriting here benefits from him not writing for Kiss anymore, the same way that the quality of his songwriting on his solo album in '78 benefited from him not writing for the rest of the band, that he was just writing for himself. At least that's the way it seemed to me at the time. And that's definitely the way it seems here. I can't imagine Kiss doing any of these songs. But, oh my gosh, this is good stuff. And I very strongly recommend Paul Stanley's Soul Station. Yes, I'm willing to bet that there is not an ounce of actual organic Paul Stanley vocal on here. I'm willing to bet it's all been pitch corrected and auto-tuned and digitally manipulated and massaged to the point where it is not recognizable as human expression. But I don't care. It sounds good. I like Now and Then by Paul Stanley's Soul Station, my album of the year for 2021. For 2022, okay, again, I got no gotta mentions. My third runner-up, Loudon Wainwright III released another album, so we'll put that in here. It's called Lifetime Achievement. It's a good album. My second runner-up, Alan Parsons, once again with From the New World, because I really like Alan Parsons. My first runner-up is She and Him. She and Him were popular on my in my runners-up in the last episode, in the 2005 to 2014, in that episode. Haven't mentioned them today, but hey, 2022 they released Melt Away, a tribute to Brian Wilson, and they do a very good. I mean, it's obvious when you listen to their earlier albums that both Zooey Deschanel and M. Ward are influenced by the Beach Boys, and here, oh, come on. And they do it really well. So I really like Melt Away, a tribute to Brian Wilson. But my album of the year, yep, we're back to Young Gun Silver Fox. Young Gun Silver Fox. Ticket to Shangri-La, their 4th album. Beautiful album. Everything I just said a couple of years ago about canyons and about Young Gun Silver Fox in general applies here. Thank you, Paul Bertolino, for introducing me to Young Gun Silver Fox, because, man, I love this music. And Ticket to Shangri-La is my album of the year for 2022. 2023. No gotta mentions in 2023. My third runner-up for 2023 is The Zombies with Different Game. Even though I've only heard the album once, it's good enough. I put it on here. My second runner-up is Bare Naked Ladies with In Flight. It's not as good as Silver Ball or All in Good Time or any of the Stephen Page era albums. But I mean, they're working their way back. They're getting better. My first runner-up, Ben Folds with What Matters Most. Strong album from Ben Folds. But my album of the year, a perennial favorite on my lists up to this point. He hasn't had an album of the year in this decade, although he's come close a couple of times. But here, I got to give it to Joe Jackson with Max. Joe Jackson presents Max Champion in What a Racket, or just What a Racket from here on. I like this album. When it came out, I liked it so much that I did an album review video, which is one of my more popular videos, strangely enough. And so yeah, this album has been good to me in this channel. So yeah, I'm still going to be good to it. I really like this album. It was the kind of thing that when I first listened to it, I thought, okay, this is interesting. I like it now, but I don't know that I'll be able to handle repeated listenings to it. And it's not like I listen to it every week, but I have listened to it several times since then, and it grows on me. The more I listen to it, the more I like it. I don't think it's ever going to be one that I put into my regular rotation the way, say, Night and Day or Body and Soul or Look Sharp. I mean, those things beat crazy. Those things, those are perennials in my list of albums that I listen to on a regular basis. I don't think that What a Racket is ever going to join that crowd, but I do think it is a very strong album, and I have absolutely no reservations at all about making it my album of the year for 2023. Joe Jackson, What a Racket. Which leads us to 2024. Now, I got a problem when it comes to 2024. And my problem is I've gone through my library. I've gone through lists on websites. I've gone through Wikipedia, for example, looking for albums released in 2024. And I have yet to find an album of new material released in 2024 that I actually bought a copy of. And this, it doesn't really surprise me all that much. I mean, if it weren't for Young Gun Silver Fox, I'd have been struggling a couple of these years, and I would have been putting albums into album of the year status that I don't know actually belonged there, because I don't listen to a whole lot of modern music, and I am getting tired of combing through these lists looking for new releases by artists that I am familiar with. Now, I've been holding off doing this last episode. I've been intentionally, looking for other things to talk about, to draw out the process, to give myself time to find stuff. But I haven't used that. I haven't used that time to find stuff. So I decided, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to do this, and we're ending the project at 2023. I'm going to put a placeholder here for 2024, and I'm hoping, the plan is, best laid plans of mice and men, as they say. But still, the plan at this point is that somewhere around the end of the year or the beginning of next year, as part of my, every year, for example, I try to do something at the beginning of the year. A couple of years ago, it was the Beach Bowl, or the Monkey Bowl. Last year, it was the Beach Bowl, where I'm doing a track versus track tournament of albums by an artist. So I've been trying to do something special for New Year's for the last couple of years. And I've thought of adding to that a year in review, where I look back at the previous year and I look at the music and I talk about the music that I like that was released that year. And I've decided that I'm going to make a better effort. I'm going to make a stronger effort to do that, but actually deal with music that I've listened to in that year. Because here's the thing. I don't have any music that was recorded in 2024 in my library, but that doesn't mean there isn't good music out there. I know there's good music out there. There always has been. There always will be. Music it's a constant. There is always good music. It's just the method that you use to find it has to adapt. My method for finding music hasn't adapted, right? I've talked a lot a couple of episodes ago. And I did a separate video talking about music that I discovered between the years of 2006 and 2009 when I was going through a depressive episode in my life. That was the last time that I made an effort to infuse my library with new music. I was doing it then as a coping mechanism. I needed something. I needed something to give me hope and to give me something to at the risk of sounding melodramatic, something to live for, not in the, prevent me from killing myself sense, but rather give me a sense of joy of life again, right? But that that method isn't working for me now. So I need to find a new method. So I need to relearn what it is to find new music, and that's what I'm going to be dedicating myself in fits and starts, he said, self-contradictingly. But I'm going to be trying to, the qualifier, I'm going to be trying to commit myself to learning a new way of finding new music. If you've got pointers for finding new music, drop those down below. I always love hearing from you. And the hope is that somewhere toward the end of this year or the beginning of next year, I'm going to be able to give you a more thorough accounting of music released in 2024 that helps outline my taste, and that I will be able to do that for 2025 as well. As it stands right now, I couldn't tell you anything that was released in this year that I listened to, much less bought a copy of, that was recorded this year. And I need to fix that. I need to find new music. So that's my homework for the future, for the next few months. We'll see if anything actually comes of it. Interested to see. So that's my album of the year series. Wrapping it up kind of with a kind of weird twist at the end. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are there albums that I've overlooked? Drop those notes down below, particularly if you've got suggestions for 2024. I always love hearing from you. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, I'd appreciate it if you'd click the like button while you're down there clicking. It wouldn't hurt to go ahead and click the subscribe button. It costs you nothing, but it means the world to me, so I very much appreciate it. And thanks for hanging out with me today. I appreciate that. And I hope that the rest of your day is jubilant. See you next week.